As Quinn Cook always likes to say, Duke basketball, never the underdog. They proved why against Arizona. What a big win it was.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So excited to have you here with us on Monday, November 25th, 2024. As we get started here this Thanksgiving week, Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we will discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. Big wins over the weekend for both men's basketball and football as Duke picks up a big one over Arizona State in hoops. And then this past weekend, pick up their 8th win of the season over Virginia Tech as Duke is now 8-3 on the football field this season. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. You can watch our show each and every day on YouTube as well. Like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of content coming your way, so make sure you don't miss out on all of the great things happening here within the world of Locked On Blue Devils. Josh Cox from Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast is going to join me on today's show, and we got to talk about this big win for Duke over Arizona as the Blue Devils win 69-55. That's right, 55 points scored by Arizona, a team who coming into the game against Duke, the most points they had scored all season was 80, or the fewest they had scored all season was 88 in their most recent loss to Wisconsin, and Duke holds them to 55. I mean, the defense was smothering. Cooper Flagg led the way once again for the Duke basketball team, and if defense sets the tone for Duke this season, they are going to be a really tough team to beat. They've now taken over the number one spot in defensive efficiency, according to Ken Pom. So joining us on the program, the aforementioned Josh Cox, to break it all down. Hope you're doing well, Josh, as we get ready for the feast week here. A big game for Duke coming up tomorrow against Kansas. But, man, we got to talk about this win over Arizona and the defense leading the way for Duke.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stifling defense, led by, as we've mentioned before, Cooper Flagg and his efforts on that end, of the floor. But what a just methodical, dominating performance, really, for Duke to go on the road, at Arizona, tough place to play, packed out, tough ticket to get down there. And for Duke to show up, and, it wasn't one of those performances, JJ, where like everybody was clicking on offense and they just couldn't miss. And so obviously Duke was going to win. Now, this was a game where Duke battled through some adversity. They weren't shooting the ball, super efficiently. And competed so much, they really came out of this ugly win. If you want to look at victory in November, which, historically Duke fans, we don't know what it's like to play on the road, truly in November. So that was really, really good to see from this young team.
And it seemed like there was a good atmosphere there at Arizona. A lot of former Duke players were showing up and supporting this team. A lot of NBA stars made appearances. Arizona had a lot of their best alumni in the basketball circles there on a Friday night to watch these two teams go at it and unfold head-to-head. But I just, again, was so impressed by what Duke was able to do defensively to limit what had been kind of a high-scoring Arizona offense. It felt like Arizona – also a team that rebounded the ball really well, and Duke goes out and wins the rebounding battle by 13. In so many ways, that wasn't even close how dominant Duke was on the boards. It took them, 15, 16 minutes before Arizona even got their first offensive rebound to create second chances for themselves. Duke did a really nice job not only making stops, but forcing Arizona to take good shots, and most importantly, making sure that they got the rebound after those shots were off.
And they made a point to mention this during the broadcast quite a bit, but that was that Duke was rebounding from all five positions. Your guards were getting down there and grabbing boards, and Proctor, Foster, and others, they were really, taking care of business as well. And so, I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing already is the fruits of what everyone who watched Cooper Flagg play in high school, they were like, hey, this is a complete package player. This is not just off a player. He loves competing on the defensive end. He loves rebounding the basketball. He loves dishing the ball. We're seeing I believe already we're seeing that influence of competing on the boards, competing on defense, and that being just as important to this team as putting the ball in the basket on offense. And so you're exactly right. I mean, for them to continue to highlight Arizona has not grabbed an offensive rebound yet, and they continued saying it, was just a testimony to effort. I think, obviously rebounding, JJ, there's a couple of things at play. There's luck, the bounce of the basketball, right? I mean, that just is what it is sometimes. There's just height and freak of nature. Come on, Malawach is going to grab some rebounds just because of his reach and the way he's built. But then the third aspect is effort, positioning yourself properly, putting a body on somebody, and just showing effort to get the basketball. And I think that's what we saw Friday night out of this Duke team.
Yeah, looking at Malawach specifically, I mean, when he walks away as a guy that's not leading your team in rebounding, despite being 7'2", it almost felt as though this is not a knock on him at all. It almost felt as though Arizona was so concerned about Common grabbing those rebounds and so concerned about locating him, they forgot, hey, there are 4 other players on the floor at all times for Duke. You look and throughout Duke's starting lineup, everybody other than Common had at least 4 rebounds on the night. Like it was everybody was chipping in to help out with that effort.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you saw a player like Concanipple, who struggled offensively for basically the first 3 quarters of the game, but you saw him competing in those other areas, including rebounding, right? Getting in there, grabbing boards, from the wing positions. And so that's going to be the way Duke is continuing the success, right? Even on nights where they don't shoot the ball well, where the shots don't fall like they want them to fall. If you can rebound on the defensive end and play really good defense, you're going to be in these games, and Duke proved that.
Without a doubt, they proved that. Big time win for Duke. They win by 14 over Arizona. Let's take a deeper look at the box score and see if there are any other numbers that jump out to us. Again, Duke picks up a massive win over the Wildcats on the road. Locked On Blue Devils is set to continue here in just a moment on today's episode of the program. All right, Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Back on the program here today, JJ Jackson alongside Josh Cox from Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. We're talking about the big win for the Blue Devils over Arizona. And once again, in so many ways, we talked about Cooper Flagg, but what he was able to do, he started the game off 3 of 11 from the floor, really kind of struggled making shots for the Duke team. And then in the second half, settled in, kept attacking the rim, knocked down a couple of shots from the outside, although from a percentage perspective, still not where we want Cooper Flagg to be by any stretch of the imagination, but kept finding other ways to get everyone involved.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, this was a great all-around game from Cooper. One of the things that Duke fans, if you just read the box score, right, if you're just a box score reader, you're going to see the percentages, like you mentioned, not where they need to be. But, there's got to be some consideration for that shot clock gets under 7 seconds and the offense is stalled. That ball absolutely finds its way to Cooper Flagg, and it's kind of like, all right, create something, right? Do something with it. And, there's a lot of and Cooper's not a volume shooter. There's a lot of volume shooters historically. You look at the Kobe Bryants of the world and even the Jason Tatums to a certain extent, and people like that. And it's like, their percentages weren't great, but they do get the ball given to them in some precarious situations, right, where you got to get a shot up. It doesn't matter what. So I think some of the Cooper shooting percentage can be attributed to that, getting the ball with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and he's supposed to, just figure it out for himself. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he does wind up shooting 40% from three, which is a positive, right? I mean, if he can continue that the rest of the season, like I think Duke fans will be happy. But then you see him still stuffing the stats, man. Blocks, steals, rebounds, assists. Like, once again, I just think it was a great Cooper Flagg game. One of the things that frustrated Duke fans in the Kentucky loss was, and I don't know if it was as much Cooper as it was Coach Shire, but it turned into hero ball for the last 8 minutes of the game. Just everybody getting out of the way, clearing out, and trying, for Cooper to go one-on-one. That did not happen in this game. Cooper got his points. He did all this, letting the offense come to him. And I think that was the most encouraging thing about the stat line and the victory for Cooper Flagg.
On Twitter, after the game was over, I pointed out that, for Duke, only 3 players scored in the second half. Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg, Caleb Foster combined for all of Duke's points. Part of that is because not as many people were able to play in this game for Duke. And then, credit to those guys for knocking down the shots that were there. Tyrese Proctor started off in a really good spot offensively for Duke, and then really cooled off. But I think it was Proctor's early shots that he was making. He had the breakaway dunk in the first half as well that really kind of set the tone. But offensively for Proctor, as the game went further into that second half, his shots weren't falling, but I thought he still continued to give such a tremendous effort, limiting Caleb Love. That was his primary responsibility on the defensive end of the floor. So while Proctor wasn't making shots offensively, he was still finding other ways to contribute.
And he did an excellent job defending Caleb Love, may we say. This was another milk carton game for Caleb Love against Duke. Did not show up. And honestly, he had to be frustrated because in that second half he threw up some prayers that didn't even hit the rim. And if you're a Duke fan, don't feel bad, right? Don't feel bad about that. You celebrate those things. But Tyrese did a great job. And one other thing to point out as we have the box score up, this was a great Malik Brown game. Obviously Malik is not looking for his shot. But in the previous game, the home game, the Duke had against Wofford, Malik really turned the ball over a lot, just trying to make plays that weren't there on offense. He did not do that this game. In fact, he had more minutes played than Kaman did. He played really good defensively. His hands in the passing lanes, only credited for 2 steals, but I think he impacted, more steals, than that. And so just want to shout out Malik because that was a really solid performance from him.
Yeah, his 3 assists, 2 of them led to direct Sion James dunks that were great attacks to the rim. So it was really good for Duke to have James back available in a big-time game like this. He finishes with 6 points, 20 minutes played for Sion, and you look at that box score, 8 players listed. Only 8 players saw the floor for Duke in this big-time game. And let's be honest, Mason Gillis was not a factor whatsoever in this game for us. He played just 7 minutes out there on the floor. So truthfully, Duke had 7 guys play against Arizona and found a way to win by 14 and held them to 55 points.
This is Shire shortening that bench a little early this year. I think we will see it come back out a little bit and get to 9, 10, 11 deep, throughout the season. But you mentioned the Malik Brown assist to Sion. That back cut is going to be there. What we saw with Arizona was they were like top blocking Con. And so Sion's going to set a pick on Con, and all that attention is like not letting Con get the ball in a shooting motion for 3. And Sion's able to slip that. And I think there were a couple of others. I think Tyrese did it once or twice. That's going to be there. If you're setting a pick on Con's man, there's a chance you're going to be able to cut off of that pick and be open, whether it's to the basket or, maybe relocating to a corner or something like that. And so I think that's something just for Duke fans to keep your eye on. Whenever there's a screen off the ball for Con, watch the screener and see what's available for the screener, because Con does take up a lot of, even when he's not hitting shots, he takes up a lot of the bandwidth of the defense.
And really love seeing Con get it going in the second half. The game's cut to 6. He knocks down kind of a stare down three from the left wing. Filthy stuff. Able to kind of take this team to the next level and over the top. So big win for Duke. Big test still ahead tomorrow in Las Vegas against Kansas. I can't wait to see that game play out. It's an experienced Kansas team that's got a really big front court again. So I think Duke's going to be tested there, and we'll see just how deep this bench can go. But excited to have Duke be a part of the feast week festivities that we're used to seeing over the years. Here we are with quite a feast, a really big game against Kansas.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Duke fans, make sure you tune into that. And also, if you fell asleep and didn't watch the Arizona game Friday night, I would encourage you to go back and rewatch that game. You definitely need to see how Duke played in that second half. You mentioned Con struggled the entire game, and then when it mattered the most, ice in his veins. And so, like, if you didn't, make sure you go back and actually watch that game. If you could probably find the condensed game on YouTube by now, or go back and fast forward to the commercials or whatever. But Duke played really well, and once again, looking forward, to playing the number one team in the nation. I mean, listen, Kansas is number one, ranked number one, rightfully so, and Duke's going to have his hands full in Vegas tomorrow night.
All right, let's take one more time out, and when we come back, we've got a couple of football thoughts to give the world after this break here on Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. They've got a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only available deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater events, and so much more. Gametime has the all-in pricing where you could toggle this feature to show the total up front, so you're not surprised by any fees at checkout. So many great ways to continue to save money on tickets no matter when you buy. The last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It is the lowest price guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, Duke football now as the Blue Devils pick up their 8th win of the season, knocking off Virginia Tech. It was a memorable senior day for so many. Duke right out of the gates plays offense with some big-time plays to Eli Pancol. The defense gave up a few. Duke falls behind 17-14, didn't panic at all, and is able to walk away with a 3-point victory. Needed to make stops at the end of the game. Virginia Tech felt like they played 6 or 7 different quarterbacks. It just felt like that was constantly changing, and you had to keep up with it all. But credit to Duke, man. I mean, what a job it was to pick up a win like this to close out the Wallace Wade portion of their schedule.
One of the most unique football games that I've ever watched in my life. Duke jumps out, as you mentioned, 14-0. First play of the game, Eli Pancol, like a bomb to Eli. And then Eli catches that third down pass, and, the defender slips. He's gone again. And so, first of all, how awesome for Eli Pancol. 6th year in the program, battled injuries the last year and a half, or last season and a half, has really played well this year. He is on the brink, JJ, of doing something that has not been done since the late 80s at Duke. Clarkston Hines was the last Duke receiver to catch double-digit touchdown passes in the season. And so Eli Pancol is sitting at 9. And so we need him to get one more this Saturday at Wake, or obviously in the bowl game to get to double digits. But that was really cool.
He's sitting at 9 because he has 3 of them in his last game. To your point, I mean, the last time we'll see him there, he finishes with 3 touchdowns, 5 catches, 3 of them happened to end up in the end zone.
Insane. And the back shoulder throw and catch was awesome. But yeah, you're right. This game went back and forth. The Duke defense, gave up a little bit more than what they would want to give up. But I will say this, JJ, when it came down to it in the fourth quarter, when the David Feely, factor is in full effect there, the defense stopped them. They couldn't move the ball at all late in the fourth quarter. Defense played really well. Really the offense kept relying on the defense throughout that fourth quarter, and the defense responded. Josh Pickett got the interception on senior day, which I thought was really neat. Terry Moore, technically, I believe, should have had another interception at the end there that they didn't count. But all that said, it was a great senior night. Transfers, they honored the transfers as well for senior night, which I love that from Manny Diaz. And so I think 32 guys were honored on that night. And so just a great game all the way around. Good to see Dwayne Carter back at Wallace Wade, and he got a great ovation from the fans. So it was a great night all the way around.
And now Duke has a chance to pick up a 9th regular season win against Wake Forest. Just really remarkable what they've been able to do. And I know over at the Section 17 podcast, Josh, you guys are going to have plenty of coverage there.
Yeah, we'll be releasing a day late this week, but look for it on Wednesday morning. We'll be talking about the Wake Forest matchup. Obviously, we'll be talking about the win at Virginia Tech. And then the fact that this Duke team really, really could finish the season with 10 wins. And what an incredible accomplishment that would be for Manny Diaz in his first season.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Looking forward to talking again soon, okay?
All right, man. Go Duke.
That's Josh Cox joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Great stuff from him as always, and a big-time win for this Duke football team to improve to 8-3 on the season. Number 1, Kansas, going to be a big test for the Blue Devils coming up tomorrow. We've got plenty more coverage coming your way here on Locked On Blue Devils. So make sure you're subscribed to our podcast feed and YouTube. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.